Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla, let's go over the market and figure out what is happening today and, well, what we can expect moving forward. So with that being said, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section is live. That link is down below. If you're interested, you get access to all my intraday thoughts, posts, updates, technical analysis, options flow, etc. on Tesla every single day the market is open. A lot of posts today, but yeah, again, if you're interested, definitely check that out down below. But with all that being said and done, let's just jump into it. Oh, it's also $3 a month, I should add. But anyways, let's jump into it. Tesla closing the day with another green day on Tesla, substantially just a lot of green days in a row for Tesla here, closing up about 3.7% on the day, closing at $262.33, which compared to the market is of course a very respectable outperformance as this rally and this euphoria continues, right? Again, with Tesla, and honestly a lot of stocks, but especially with Tesla, it's very, very good at when it starts plummeting down, it just feels like it really just can't stop, and everyone just keeps thinking that it's going to stop here, and it just doesn't. It continues. And honestly, the rallies are similar, right? The euphoria is very overextended usually, and just as the drops usually get pretty overextended, and people just can't really figure out when it's going to stop, right? And that's essentially what we're going to be trying to do. So first I want to talk about something pretty specific, right? So I want to go over to Trend Spider here, and I want to show two things here. First and foremost, I want to show the TW pivot indicator, right? This one down here, this kind of the second one from the bottom, right? This one's a pretty good indicator because it's pretty decent at showing tops and bottoms. For instance, whenever on the weekly, for instance, here you can see whenever it gets these red bars, and essentially the more and darker red it becomes, the more of a higher chance that we're at a potential top, especially on the weekly, right? You can see we only had one where I had the hollow behind it for the red bar, which was that pretty massive top area all the way up here where we pretty much started this massive downtrend, really. And you can see even on this, weekly candle right now, technically there's more room to run. You can definitely make that argument, but we're starting to approach those levels of getting pretty extreme, even on this indicator on the weekly. The daily, we're actually approaching the dark red sort of type indicator, which we haven't seen for quite some time. The last time we've seen it was all the way back here, which was close to a near-term top. We saw it all the way over here, which was also a near-term top, right? And we're seeing it pretty much once again here. This obviously doesn't mean this has to be the top, right? Obviously, especially with Tesla's close today, they closed on strength, so that is something to consider. But just another indicator showcasing just how overbought we really are on Tesla, right? RSI overextended, MACD overextended, stochastic very, very high, though it is on the verge of crossing bearish. If I open it up over here, you can take a look. It hasn't yet, but it's very, very close to potentially crossing down bearish, really signaling momentum is drying up. Again, it hasn't yet, so I wouldn't, if I was a bear, I wouldn't be excited just yet, but it's getting pretty darn close, right? And the thing I want to show here on TrendSpider is the fact that, keep in mind, June and July, we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again. It's the best months for Tesla, really. It's just the best 2 months in a row for Tesla by far throughout the year. And it's not even close. August, you can see it comes back way down, right? It's a kind of a hit or miss month, really. Nothing special in August. But the thing that's really worth noting is the fact that September, not just Tesla, but pretty much the broader market, really bad month for September, right? Especially on an election year. I can't imagine it being a good month, especially on an election year. But, very, very bearish month really for Tesla and just really the broader market in general, as is really October, right? Those are the 2 months that are essentially the exact opposite for Tesla as June and July are. And we're obviously starting to approach them, right? We're not there yet, of course. There's still, more room to run potentially, right? There's still, euphoria left, of course, all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's just, looking forward, right? Just something to consider. Now, that's the main thing I want to talk about on TrendSpider. Moving back here, right? We did officially touch, and very, 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 very briefly, we actually did breach this high that we had way back here, pretty much in December of last year, right? We went as high as 265 the exact number was 0.61, right? So we technically did breach it, though it didn't last very long. If I go to the 1 minute chart, you can see here, we pretty much closed a single 1 minute candle above it, and then a massive red candle came out and smacked us down pretty aggressively. And then we kind of slowly sold off throughout the rest of the day after that massive smackdown, right? So, we did technically breach it, right? Which is a good sign. I think that's still a really good sign. I don't know if a 1 minute candle is enough for me to be like, oh, the long-term trend has officially shifted bullish off of that alone. I personally wouldn't, right? To me, it's essentially like kind of like a double top, if that makes sense. But the way I look at it is this, right? If there's a place to reject, I honestly think this has to be it, right? Similar to how I said, if there's a place to bounce, this has to be around here. That has to be it. Remember, if you look back to my videos, right? This is pretty much that, just in the opposite direction. Like if there is a place to reject, in my opinion, this is the place. 265 roughly, give or take, of course. Again, keep in mind, stocks like to overshoot sometimes, or they maybe undershoot sometimes, right? That is very common. Get some bull traps, bear traps, right? Very, very common. So keep that in mind. But again, if there is a place to reject around this 265 level, I think it's that place. CPI is coming out on Thursday, PPI on Friday. I remember I did talk about that one post that had, the trend essentially for Tesla and the way the stock is going to behave and perform, right? That did showcase this rally coming up. It also showcases that the trend should start reversing on Thursday. Perfectly coincides with CPI. Will that actually happen or not? Nobody knows. But, just something worth noting, especially considering we did officially reach pretty much my main price target now, 265. So we'll see. Now, I want to make it clear, even if Tesla does reject, by the way, we're obviously still exceptionally overbought, exceptionally euphoric. It's so funny. No one wanted to buy Tesla here, but everyone wants to buy it here. It's always like that, isn't it? Now, if I remove all these for now, right? If we do reject from here, right? Trend lines aside, again, you know how I feel about trend lines. Trend lines aside, if we do reject from here, if this happens to be the place that we do reject from, which it is a possibility, right? Again, and I said this before, and I'll mention it again now that we're pretty much here. We could be setting up what looks to be a potential cup and handle. Now, this could be a rounding bottom pattern, and maybe we don't even do the handle. Maybe we just blast through 265 right here, right now, which, by the way, if we do blast through 265, I honestly think about 280, at the very least, 270, if not 280, in the cards, almost guaranteed, right? We just go to the next level. It's just, it's just how it works. You just go to the next level, then you go to the next level, and you keep going until one of these levels, finally the seller is out overall the buyers. It's just that simple. So if we do blast above 265, 270 to 280, within the cards, absolutely. But again, if this is the area we reject, if this is the area that we do potentially start forming the handle, if this is finally where we start to cool off, this is what I foresee for Tesla, right? So pretty much, again, the pattern will look like this. That's the handle, and then the cup, or sorry, this is the cup, and the handle will be looking like this, which essentially will just be a massive bull flag, right? Pretty much. That's essentially the easiest way of thinking about it. Now, obviously, the question is, okay, well, let's say we do form the handle. Let's say we do reject from here. Let's say we do start making our way back down. Let's say we start that cool off. Where can we go? Well, there's a few levels to look at, right? And it really depends on how bullish Tesla is. First, I want to bring out the Fibonacci, right? Go from the swing all the way, like the massive swing low, which was pretty much the bottom, to potentially, a short to medium term top right here, right? And we'll put it like this, right? Give or take, of course. Now, if Tesla is extreme bullish, let's say Tesla is very, very bullish. Let's say it's so bullish right now. The momentum is just way too high, and you just cannot keep this stock down. Let's just say that happens to be the case. Personally, what I foresee happening right now is, well, Tesla will just come back down to retest this trend line on the log chart. Keep in mind, I am on the logarithmic chart, which is where this trend line is right now, which will pretty much bring Tesla back down, in my opinion, just barely into the 240s, like 245-ish, I would say. And I think that could be all we get. I really do think that's all we get, and that's going to be the cool off. And from there, we just move up even higher. That is a possibility, assuming Tesla is very bullish. That is a possibility, though. Now, assuming Tesla wants to just behave normally, which, again, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It's hard to know with the stock sometimes. But if Tesla does want to behave normally, and it does want to actually, properly cool off, that's where the Fibonacci's come in, right? From that swing low to this potentially swing high right here that we potentially set today at 265. You look at the Fibonacci levels, and we have the 0.32 level, we have the 0.5 level, and we have the 0.618 level. I don't think we'll go to the 618 level. It is a possibility. That is something you should keep in mind in the back of your head. That will be all the way down to 186. Personally, I'd be more looking at the 0.32 to as low as the 0.5 level, which will range pretty much between 220 to about $200 per share. That kind of 20-point range, if we do actually come down there, should most likely be that accumulation zone once again for that next leg up, as we again potentially set up this cup and handle pattern, because that's usually how they also set up. They usually come back down to one of these fibs, they reset. You can set up that handle, or in other words, a potential bullish flag, and then you, of course, make your way up, right? So again, it'll look something like this. One more time, right? So you already know how the cup looks like. The handle will look something like this, right? We kind of go from here, again, just a rough example, and then you blast off, and that's, roughly what it can look like. Again, doesn't have to look exactly like this, but that's just a general idea. We'll see, of course, we'll see. That's kind of the main thing I'm looking at right now, and kind of, considering, if you will, for Tesla. But again, there's always a possibility that 250 to 245-ish, give or take, is all we get for the dip, and we just continue rocketing even higher. And the reason I say that is because, one, the momentum is still very high for Tesla. We're still closing very bullish looking candles on very elevated volume, right? Today's volume is actually higher than the last 2 days of volume. So, the volume is still there. Tesla's still looking bullish. The momentum is still there. This is definitely not a stock or chart or a daily candle I would look to short. Absolutely not. But again, like I said many times, it is still very, very overextended, extremely overbought. The bands are extremely overextended. So, the market bias is way below us. So, again, the euphoria is very, very high. But even with that being said, it's still very high. The momentum is still very strong. It's not a stock I would short whatsoever. In fact, if anything, it's a stock I would still argue longing, honestly, but just not at 265, right? Not right at that resistance point. So that's just the way I look at it. I have long positions right now. I have cash secured puts, for instance, right, that I'm just letting them ride out. I doubt they're gonna hit by this Friday, because I sold them back when we were in the 250s still, or at 240, 250s. I doubt they're gonna be hit, but you never know with Tesla. But again, very overextended. Now I want to bring up the stochastic here. The stochastic, you can see, it's starting to slow down a little bit. Each time it came back to the red line, like it did over here, like it kind of did over here, it didn't actually cross. It actually went even higher. But now, like I said before, and I'll say it again, we are approaching some pretty historical levels on the RSI. In fact, I think we're actually at probably one of the highest, if not the highest level we've ever been on the stochastic, rather, not the RSI, stochastic, right? So keep that in mind. It's extremely overextended. And it's very close to crossing bearish. It hasn't yet, like I said, but it's very darn close. Just something else to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to all this, though, however, let's look at options sold. There have been some decently, I guess, bearish-ish options being sold. For instance, you had a 1.2 million being sold here, 267 for this Friday, actually. But the one I really want to mention, it was somewhere down here. Let me see if I can find it. There was a bullish one, of course, 1.1 million, 250, for instance, for November 15th. That's obviously very bullish. Well, not very bullish, but it's bullish. There was one, I think this one, 1.4 million call sell for next week, Friday, 200 strike, right? That's pretty interesting, right? And the reason is because, well, again, it doesn't mean it has to come down to 200. This, it can just come down to 240 even. And this whale can take profit on this right then and there. It doesn't have to come down to 200. But, that's still, of all the strikes to choose, it's interesting they chose that one. 1.3 million here call sell September 20th, 225 strike. And there was one more, down here, 1.2 million call sell, 255 strike, August 8th, or August 2nd. So, on another one here, 1.7 million call sell, 270 strike, August 2nd. So, people are definitely getting bearish here, right? They're getting a little bit bearish here. They're getting some, some bearishness is definitely coming in here. But on the flip side, and this is why it can get confusing, there's still some bullishness coming in on options bought. For instance, towards the end of the day, you had a where was it? There was actually a put that came in here, but before that, we had a 1.5 million call come in for November 15th, a 265 strike. We had a 1.2 million call come in, also November 15th, 250 strike. But then you also had a 1.24 million put come in, 240 strike for December of this year. There's a lot of battling happening between whales here. It feels like even the whales are confused as to where the hell the stock is going to go next. I'm still seeing a surprising amount of bullish calls come in, but there's definitely some bearishness coming in as well alongside it. That's making you raise some eyebrows. That's making you kind of second guess things a little bit. So we'll see how it actually plays out. Of course, right? It's very interesting to see this, obviously, but I guess if it makes you feel any better, if you're kind of confused as to, how much higher the stock will go, or like when is it going to finally drop? Well, it seems like the whales are just as confused, at least from what I'm seeing. So we'll see how that plays out. But again, the way I look at it is simply, if there's a place to reject, this is that area. We'll see if that actually happens. If we do break above 270 to 280 is most likely around the corner, right? The market definitely still making new all-time highs, but it's definitely starting to slow down a little bit here, right? It's not going too crazy, at least today, right? The market's definitely, kind of calming down a tiny bit, right? We also have the VIX, which is important to understand, right? The VIX, potentially finding a bit of a bid here, almost the stochastic flipping bullish, right? The MACD flipping a little bit bullish here. So, if the VIX really starts to find some life, that's going to be obviously bearish for the market, which could be bearish for Tesla, as we head into something like CPI on Thursday and PPI on Friday. So very interesting correlation coming up here. That's going to be a pretty wild stuff. So we'll see how that actually plays out and how it affects the market. But again, the way I look at it is, if there's a place to reject, this would be it. Am I actually buying puts on Tesla? No, I'm not. The strength is still too high. The risk is way too high for me to even consider buying puts here. I need to see something obvious, more obvious in a bearish sense for me to even consider it. But all that being said and done, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. And as usual, I'll see you for the next one. Peace.